Hello and welcome. You have tuned in to the Foreign Film Frequency, a podcast about what English speakers tend to call foreign language films or international films, and what the rest of the world simply call films. My name is Nikolai, and I'm joined by my friend and co-host Nicolas, and together we travel the world through cinema with the goal of watching a movie from every country in the world and bring you, the listener, our thoughts along the way. For each episode, we pick one movie to watch, discuss, and rate, and before we end, we'll let you know what movies we'll be watching next so that you, the listener, can join us in this journey from home. Now sit back, relax, and cue the subtitles.
Nikolai,
if
you had to choose one of the following quotes, which one would you pick? She left her scythe for a revolver, or for you the struggle was yesterday, for her it's today.
I think the second one. Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah, me too. The reason that I'm asking this is because it's the film we watched today, Mortu Nega. It's packed full of these kinds of themes, exploring, the struggle of escaping colonialism and the struggle of living in freshly acquired liberty afterwards. What did we watch?
Yeah, so we watched the 1988 historical war drama Mortu Nega, which is often translated to Death Denied or Those Whom Death Refused, from Guinea-Bissau. It was directed by Flora Gomes and written by Gomes, Manuel, Rambout, Barcelos, and David Lang. Now, normally we also talk about the budget for these kind of movies to see what they cost to make and compare them to Hollywood productions. But for this one, I wasn't able to find any information about the budget, or at least there's not a number mentioned anywhere. I did find out, however, that it was subsidized by the government of Guinea-Bissau, which was at the time the third poorest country in the world. And also it was the first full-length movie production in independent Guinea-Bissau. And because it was concerning the country's fight for independence and the fight against colonial empire and all this, many people and actors simply volunteered to work on the movie for what it appears to be free. It premiered at the Venice Film Festival on 29th of August 1988 and was shown at several other big film festivals, including Cannes. While it suffered from poor international distribution at the time of release, it has gone on to become somewhat of a cult anti-colonialist movie. It currently has an IMDb score of 6.8 with just 141 ratings and a score of 3.7 on Letterboxd and nothing on Rotten Tomatoes due to it having simply too few ratings. So not a whole lot to go by, but I guess we'll see what we thought about it when we get on with it a little bit.
Yeah, and as always, we also need to take a look at 3 other more mainstream movies that came out in the same month as the movie we watched. So please do tell us what Hollywood had to offer in August of '88.
Yeah, so let's just take the top 3 total gross domestic box office movies released that month. At number 3, we have the crime thriller Betrayed by Costa Gavras, about an FBI agent who becomes romantically involved with a Midwest farmer who lives a double life as a white supremacist. And at number 2, we have Christopher Kane's Young Guns, starring Emilio Estevez as Billy the Kid, Kiefer Sutherland, Luke Diamond Phillips, and Charlie Sheen, among many others. And at number 1, we have A Nightmare on Elm Street, Part 4, The Dream Master, directed by Rennie Harlin.
Oh, Part 4.
Yes, Part 4.
Nice.
Well, that was the highest grossing movie of the month, which just shows that those slashers really, there's a reason why there's 1 million of them in each franchise. They really, really sold a lot of movie tickets for young teens in the 80s.
I wonder if we'll ever see a Mortu Nega 4.
I hope not.
Have you seen any of the Blockbuster tickets?
Actually, I think I might have watched Young Guns, but I'm so not sure about it that I'll probably say no to that one. I haven't watched Betrayed. I have watched A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4. I really like horror movies, so I've seen most of that franchise as well.
Any of them you'd pick over the one we watched for today?
Of the one that I'm sure I watched, no. No, I would actually rather watch the one we watched today, even though I do like the Freddy Krueger movies.
Okay.
What about you?
I've watched Young Guns, definitely. The other 2, no. But I do have to say, just by the description of Betrayed.
Yeah, it does sound good. It sounds interesting, at least.
Really good.
Yeah.
I mean, it could go many ways.
But
I see a few of them being pretty interesting. So that's one I might have to get back to. I haven't watched any of the Elm Street.
Not even the first one.
No, I think the only one I've watched is they made, like, in the era of mashups, they had this Freddy versus Jason.
Oh yeah.
That's the only one I've seen.
That's the only one I've seen. Well, the first one is good.
I believe
but
you.
You don't like horror movies.
I'm so afraid.
I don't think Nightmare on Elm Street is scary. It's just kind of entertaining.
I have a club. Wow, a secret society. I have a couple of friends that where we kind of take turns on hosting, like a dinner or something. The theme is always let's eat something exotic.
Okay.
And it all started because one of us had a pheasant in the freezer.
Oh, okay.
And then from then on, it's been less exotic than that because
less exotic than the pheasant.
Yeah. Once we had cod.
Wow.
But it was freshly caught. And then we take turns at preparing some kind of dinner, and then we try and watch a horror film from Korea or Japan or kind of the Asian ones. And ever since I watched, I think it's called Gwynjam Haunted Asylum, which is like the Blair Witch Project on steroids.
Yeah.
I'm getting goosebumps as I'm speaking about that film right now. I've been completely broken for horror films. After we watched that one, no one went home.
Oh, okay.
Like, we had to sit in the sofa together and kind of watch a cartoon afterwards to decompress.
I love horror movies. It was actually one of the first things that me and my wife bonded over. The love for Evil Dead, which I think came up on the first date.
Beautiful. A match made in hell. Yeah, so that's about it for Hollywood. Not an impressive month.
So it was kind of interesting because the page where I found these also listed other movies that were in the cinema at the same time, and there were some bangers in there.
Right.
Okay. Just not released in August, but released in the months before. Still being in the cinema and just raking in tickets, like Die Hard. Just really, really good movies. That was just the time to be alive and go to the cinema. Was August of 1988. You would have an impressive list of movies on the billing.
You'd basically be able to watch the originals of everything that's being remade.
Yeah,
now.
exactly.
Everything they're rehashing. All right, let's back to post-colonialism.
Yes. Hey.
I'll start off by reading the logline from IMDb. During the Independence War, a woman searches nationwide for her resistant husband.
It was a bit weird, I know, but it's what it said.
After finding and saving him, they must rebuild their relationship and life together in their ravaged country. Does this sum up the movie for you?
Not really. I thought it was a bit weird because I don't think their relationship ever really suffers as a result of it or anything. I mean, while it is a movie about the struggle for independence, it's also a lot about the aftermath and what happens. But I don't think it's very close to what's happening. What about you?
Not only does this not sum up the film,
but
I think most of it is factually wrong. Yeah. She doesn't save her husband. The relationship doesn't break, really. No. I mean, not in any sense that needs rebuilding. They need to be in the same location. But
exactly.
Nothing wrong between them, really. And I don't think they get a life together either, really, in the ravaged country. No. So this sells it short.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah. And the grammatical errors and all that, I don't think it's a particularly original one. But yeah, not the best. Not the best description we've had of the movie.
Some content writers need to worry about AI. Not all of them, but some of them definitely need to worry about AI.
One of those 141 raters of this movie.
Yeah. All right. Before we get more into the film, I'll just briefly cover the background here. So Flora Gomes was born in Cadiz in Guinea-Bissau on the 31st of December in 1949. He was born to illiterate parents, which I don't think...
Probably quite normal, I would guess.
I think more the norm than... He was an opponent of the Portuguese rule and a supporter of the famous Amilcar Cabral, who was the head of the guerrilla movement PAIGC, or African Party for the Independence of Guinea and Cape Verde. Almost like a Life of Brian name. Sorry.
Long name.
The People's Front. He was widely remembered as one of Africa's foremost anti-colonial leaders, a Pan-Africanist and intellectual nationalist revolutionary poet. In 1972, Gomez moved to Cuba, where he attended high school before deciding to study film at the Institute for Film in Havana. I'm not gonna
attempt the Spanish.
I'm not gonna do that. That's horrible. Later, he moved to Senegal and continued his studies at the Senegalese Journal for Motion Picture News. In '74, he returned to a newly independent home country in what then became Guinea-Bissau, and filmed the actual independence ceremony in September 1974, in accordance with Amilcar Cabral's wishes that it should be Bissau Guineans themselves capturing this moment on film. So in many ways, he's
at the center of a lot of these.
He's played a part.
Yeah.
Here, yeah. In the late 70s and early 80s, he worked mainly on documentaries alongside many famous filmmakers, including French filmmaker Chris Marker, whose 1983 documentary Sans Soleil partly explores the decay of Guinea-Bissau's revolution in the wake of independence. Also a theme we'll get
strong
into
theme
here,
in this one, yeah.
In 1988, after directing a couple of historical documentaries, Gomez was given the opportunity to direct his first fiction film. And the first such movie that was made in the newly independent Guinea-Bissau was the film we watched today, Mortu Nega. One reviewer called the movie an elegy not for the victims of the War of Liberation, but for its survivors. And it is likely inspired by an observation made by Chris Marker in Sans Soleil 5 years before. What every revolutionary thinks the morning after victory, now the real problems begin.
Yeah, I think that really is such a core theme of this movie. I'd expected it to be more of a war movie.
Me too.
Much more of a war movie,
Yeah.
but it's so much more because the war ends halfway through. And then it's really much more about what are we going to do with this newly found independence and freedom? And will this movement, the revolutionary movement, continue? Will people continue to support it? Can you keep it going? It's a really interesting way to approach this topic.
Definitely, yeah. And have you ever read Descartes?
No.
René Descartes.
No.
All right. He was, I think, for me. I mean, I had philosophy in high school, and then on several years of university, kind of as the side studies or optional courses. And he was, I think, Descartes for me was kind of the ones that sparked my interest for philosophy. And what ties it together with this film is that René Descartes has these meditations. The first one is where he questions everything. That's where the I think therefore I am quote because it's the only thing he can actually trust is real. And the first meditation is amazing, much like the revolution. I mean, when it's about deconstructing something or removing it, it's very simple. You can endure hardship, you can stay in it for prolonged periods. You have a goal, you have something that unites you and kind of sets your individual needs to the side. But as soon as you're done deconstructing, you need to rebuild. And that is where the philosopher I'm talking about, as well as the revolution, usually comes to a screeching halt.
But before we get into it, might also be interesting just to talk a little bit about the background of the sort of historical setting. Do you know a lot about these wars, Portuguese colonial wars, if you can call them that, or decolonial wars?
I mean, not particularly. I think I knew that around that time, Portugal had, got their democracy or their revolution.
Yeah. It's also kind of referenced in the movie amongst some of the characters talk about.
It is.
Yeah, we can get into that. But yeah, I've read a few books on it because I mainly do, as a historian, I'm mainly interested in military history. And it's a really interesting case because it is sort of comparable to the Vietnam War. It's happening about in the same time. It's fought in a lot of similar ways, a sort of overseas Western military power fighting an insurgency. The Portuguese situation is a little bit different in that they were actually fighting 4 different wars. They were fighting in Angola, they were fighting in Mozambique, and they were fighting in Guinea-Bissau and in Cape Verde. It's when you look at sort of like casualty figures, if by percentage, it's a much more costly war for Portugal than the Vietnam War was for America. And as colonial powers, they were also using a lot of let's call them native troops or locally recruited soldiers to fight these largely communist resistance fighters or revolutionaries, which also, in the post-war made a lot of internal conflicts within these countries that quite a large part of the population had supported, or at least maybe not support, but at least fought for the Portuguese. And I believe that in Guinea-Bissau, some 7,500 former Portuguese soldiers of Bissau-Guinean descent or Bissau-Guineans are executed after the war. And in Mozambique and in Angola, you have civil wars in the aftermath of Portugal withdrawing from these countries. This plays into a larger part of many different decolonization projects, if you will, that really, I don't think maybe Cape Verde is it's the best. I don't know too much about it, so I might just say that it's the best one, and there was a horrible genocide there. But I believe that in none of these countries it was particularly successful. There was a lot of coups in Guinea-Bissau, and later on a civil war as well. And of course, Angola and Mozambique have been torn apart by civil wars ever since. So yeah, just to give a little bit of background of what this movie is set on the heels of.
For this podcast, I did do some research into it, and it was kind of interesting to see, because colonial powers had different ways of doing it. And it seems that Portugal was one of the kind of more exploitative, approaches to colonialism, imperialism. Where, very little of Guinea-Bissau had infrastructure. They invested almost nothing in social programs and schooling and so on, which kind of, I don't know, it plays into this understanding that I have of Portugal as a colonial power, as being extremely cynical. All of these colonies are from somewhere around 1,400 something. That's kind of when they came into the possession of Portugal. And briefly after that, they started shipping slaves, and it was mostly for that. Kind of mind-boggling that they leave almost 600 years later or 500 years later and haven't built roads or anything, just purely sucking out.
Exploiting them. And I think, this movie today is set in 1973, which is after 10 years of war. We're dropping at the very end of the war, but there's a long history of really bloody conflicts in all these countries here, and Guinea-Bissau included. And I also think it's interesting, to think that, of course, we know perhaps more about Franco being, a fascist country that survived the Second World War and, continued up into the latter half of the 20th century. But we forget Portugal was also a fascist country. The Salazar regime continued for a long time until, the mid-70s, and also fell largely because of these wars that people were simply sick and tired of in Portugal as well. The soldiers did not want to go and fight a very, very costly war in places where it's like, what do we even get at this point? As you say, hundreds of years before, you might have gotten economic boost from sale of slavery and crops and things like that. And now in the 1970s, to still have this imperial colonial empire, it was not something that anybody really wanted to fight and die for.
No, I think that's a really good point. Also, because when slavery was at its highest, and when Portugal was a big international power, they had a lot of money. They were very, very rich, and people in Portugal, citizens, lived a good life. That's not a trend in the 70s at all. No. So they had, they had their own societal problems mounting in Portugal, and then to go and fight a war, for 10 years in some African colony that there's nothing there. They haven't built anything. Nothing is being produced. Thankfully, they can't sell the humans anymore. So it's, of course, it needs to. And
undoubtedly topple, also influenced by American counterculture and freedom movements and, peace movements everywhere, and saying, okay, inspired by music and culture, and that way that also spills into, like, why are we fighting this war? It's not a just war. It's not, we're fighting to keep these people in some sort of bondage across thousands and thousands of miles or kilometers away from our tiny home country in Europe.
And as you say, influenced by American, symbolism and movements. I'm pretty sure that the revolution in Portugal was the one with the flowers, right? Where they put flowers into the guns, the gun mounts, and
the barrels of the guns. But now let's dig into the movie itself. And if you haven't watched it and don't want any spoilers, this is where you might want to pause the episode. Consider yourself warned.
So the film starts with a jungle, a forest somewhere.
Well, it says it's on on the border between Portuguese Guinea and the Republic of Guinea-Conakry, which is Guinea.
That one. Yeah.
The country of Guinea today and Guinea-Bissau, because you can never have too many Guineas.
And too many straight lines marking the borders. A truck arrives with weapons and ammunition, and it's later it becomes apparent. But when this started, my first thought was, oh God, they're gonna kill these people.
Yeah, there's a bunch of people sitting in the bush.
There's a bunch of civilians looking really ragged, sitting in the bush. There's soldiers, commanding them around, asking them to carry weapons and supplies and so on. And I thought, I hope it's not going to be that. If it starts like this, it's going to be a rough one. But it turns out that this is the people's movement, right? So they're civilians helping the fighters to beat the Portuguese. This is also where we are introduced to Dominga, a woman who is searching for her husband Sako, one of the fighters at the front, and another character that appears throughout the film, Lebeth. What's your impression of Dominga right off the bat?
Off the bat, she seems like a really strong, independent woman. I think that's the way they want to portray her. Yeah, I think it's interesting because I know that the name threw me off a bit at first of the director, Flora, but it is a man, of course, but I actually thought it was a woman when I first read the name and didn't read anything about it. But it is a man, and I thought it was an interesting thing to make the main character of a war movie a woman. And I thought, especially for the time period as well. And I think that is, his personal philosophy as well, is that it is very much to show that everybody is supporting this movement, and women in particular play an incredibly important role throughout this movie, and the men are almost side characters in every situation that you see. I don't think there's any scene, there's one scene later on where two men are talking, but otherwise it's always sort of a woman on screen. I think that's a very interesting point for this movie, but yeah, she strikes me as a strong, independent woman, a woman who has suffered as well, but is also has made the decision to go simply and find her husband fighting at the front.
And the point about women in the war and being main characters in all of this, I think it's kind of the tagline of this podcast is becoming Hollywood, but I need to do it again. I need to beat that horse with a stick.
Yeah.
Because I think this idea of war being a strictly male profession is very much influenced by American films that we watched when we were younger.
Yeah.
Because as historians, you and I, every time there's kind of been an existential struggle, so not an imperial war or not an invasion for some reason, but World War I, World War II, women have played just as important roles as men. When society mobilizes, the women become the logistics, the production, and usually also at the front. But they do fill a lot of the roles that are required to maintain a combat capability.
Yeah, and I also think that it's part of this decision is you make a war movie. What is the most boring part of a war to make a war movie about? Well, a munition convoy or transport company or something. It's not exactly the most glamorous part of war, but it is an important part, and it is one where both children, we see also children taking part in this, children and women and old women, like Lebeth is an older woman, all playing their part and doing their bit towards victory.
I think actually the first casualty we see in this film is a young boy, right? I'd also like to give a quick shout out to our co-host today. We are the usual place where we
usual
do this
studio
was not open for business, so we're in my in my very nice house.
Yes, with a soundtrack of children.
With our co-host, my 1-year-old Luca, who is screaming his lungs out and probably stressing out my wife more than me.
I think we'll try to take some of it out in post, but I don't think we can get all of it. Just
that boy is born for the spotlight. He has his first podcast appearance
at 1.
At 1. All right. So the fighters and logistics are set off on their march. They are walking what seems like I would tap out.
Yeah, it's a really I love these scenes because it sounds weird, but it looks so real in a way when you see pictures from some of these wars of troops or civilians carrying just a few grenades on their head or a box of ammunition or something, and the uniforms look great. They look real, and they're making their way through not just along roads, but across high grass fields, rivers, dirt tracks, mud, all this. You really see the hardship it is to just bring a few a few boxes of ammunition to the front.
Definitely, especially the river scene where they're
Yeah, it's really
treading,
good.
waist-high mud and trying to keep the ammunition and the explosives dry. What this kind of segment of the film reminded me of was our second film, Pulgasari.
Yeah.
Completely different ways of showing,
The marching,
the marching and the people, and
Oh, yeah, I see what you mean.
The kind of momentum that the revolution is gaining, but very much the same result in my opinion. It seems like they can't lose.
Yeah.
When you watch this,
It actually, for me, it reminded me of the American, war film, The Thin Red Line by Terrence Malick. I don't know if you've seen it.
I have.
Yeah, and there's a lot of walking in the beginning
There
through
is,
tall grass and all this, and it just has a little bit of that feel to it as well. These sort of meditative walk through these enormous landscapes,
moving through purgatory to get to the front.
Yeah, exactly.
In the middle of all of this, they're attacked by a helicopter, which is, you said it briefly before we started taping this. Amazing for
the time and place.
The time and place. An actual helicopter's doing a strafing run.
Yeah, exactly. It's an Alouette helicopter, the correct one that the Portuguese would use with correct markings and everything. It looks great. And it's when I saw that, I was just, wow, I'm impressed. I mean, when you then realize how little, even though we don't have a number, but presumably small the budget was for this, it looks really good.
It definitely does. And the budget can't be big. I mean,
no.
They didn't have all of their money.
No.
Would not cover a big production film at that time. So very well made. And again, great use of the environment, of angles, of acting where special effects perhaps would play a bigger role in a bigger production.
Yeah, but you can also see that this is a guy who knows how to direct a camera, because you get some really good shots of these troops moving, both close-ups and pulled back with wide angle lenses, seeing them walk across open land and all this. It looks really good.
Yeah. They survive all of this hardship and
well, except one who steps on a mine. Yeah, I don't remember his name, but one of the boys steps on a mine.
Other than the boy, they make it to the forward camp. And as soon as they reach the camp, Dominga finds out that the soldiers are setting out to the front. That's where she presumes her husband is.
Yeah, I think she's told that by another soldier that he's at the front.
The soldier says he's out on a raid, but I think she just goes in the general direction to find him. But either way, walks with the commander, Sanogo, right? Sanabayo.
Yeah, here we see again her independence, because he's like, no, your job is done. You've carried this ammunition to this forward post. Now it's the job for us. But he's like, no way. My husband is there. I'll go with you. And he just, what can I do?
Yeah, she just demonstratively picks up a canteen of water and puts 2 grenades on her head. She's
exactly, and she's off
in her flip-flops. They reach the front and they are reunited. And in what is a pretty funny scene to me, exactly. where they're kind of hugging and kissing. And
he's up for it.
He's up for it. And she is as well, I think.
A little bit, but she's like, in front of you, comrades, here in this trench.
Here in the trench in front of the comrades.
But a shell lands as well.
A shell lands and they need to move. Yeah. So they evacuate and head back from the front. On the way back, the helicopters come back. And in an even more impressive, I think, action sequence.
It's a really cool scene as well.
The helicopter strafes or kind of flies over them. They try to hide. The chopper, the helicopter sees them. It comes back for a strafing run. One of the soldiers is hit. Sanabayo, who actually made it into safe in the woods. Cover, he runs out to pick up the wounded comrade and is hit in the back.
It doesn't look good.
Looks really bad. But he manages to shoot down the helicopter.
Yeah, or they collectively do it. At least they all have AK-47s and
they give him the honor.
Yeah, they give him the honor. But yeah, I think. It's a really good scene as well, and it's impressive, special effects of the helicopter going down. It looks really good.
It looks like they crashed.
It does look like they just crashed one of the helicopters. I don't know who volunteered for that job, but but it looks really good.
It was first day of pilot training for someone. When they make it back to camp, there's a really sad ambient going on, a sense of disillusionment, and it turns out that Amilcar Cabral has been killed.
Yeah, he's been assassinated in Conakry. Yeah. And they're listening to it on the radio.
Yeah, by,
some of his own men, I believe.
Guinea-Bissau,
Yeah, some disgruntled officers or something. I'm not completely sure who did it, but it appears to have been been some of his own.
I mean, he died in a place where the Portuguese weren't. So
but it could
as
also
someone-
be intelligence, of course.
At this point, it's the first time in the film where we kind of get an impression of how long this conflict has been going on, and I think it's something again that's natural in any situation of hardship. But news of the leader or someone you admire passing away or being hit by the enemy, sends rings of hopelessness into everyone. And the soldiers are obviously growing weary. They suddenly seem tired. Kind of the entire atmosphere shifts in the camp. Again, very nicely done with limited of anything other than acting, basically. It turns out that war has raged for 10 years. It seems like they have this slogan of the Portuguese are growing tired, where I think a soldier replies, I am growing tired as well.
Exactly.
That's what I thought when I joined this war 10 years ago, that we were kind of on the verge of winning. And it seems that we're further away from that now with the assassination of Cabral than before.
And we also have talks between, Dominga and Levitt, for example. There's some scenes where they also talk about how long it's been since they've been home, presumably been in some sort of refugee camps in neighboring Conakry or something, while at least Dominga's husband has been fighting at the front. It's a war that has torn apart these families and these lives as well. And we also see it, I think, early in the movie, while they're marching to the front with all the stuff. There's also a scene where they reach a village where a shell lands and some houses burn down, and there's a little boy running down the road naked, crying. And I think just that little scene there. He runs towards the soldiers, but if you've seen the famous photo from the Vietnam War of the girl running from the napalm attack, it's a little bit shot like that as well. I think there's I don't think it's a coincidence in a way.
Yeah, and also one more thing that I forgot in the introduction to this. It's kind of the question of Dominga's children or family is raised in one of the very first scenes where she's speaking with Lebeth. She asks her, do you have a husband? Yes, he's fighting at the front. And do you have children? And then we don't really get an answer to that question, even though it pops up several times. But the actress in question here playing Dominga does a really good job of kind of, doing what we had an issue with the last film, not delivering,
Dry season.
Dry season. Not saying it, showing it. And, it's very apparent from the very first time she's asked about her kids that this is a talented actress. After this, the soldiers set out on an attack. Or an ambush, on a Portuguese base, and the civilians move away from the fighting. So they kind of split up again, Sacco and Dominga. What mission do they set up for? Yeah,
they go to attack. I don't know exactly what it is, but some Portuguese outpost, and you see them bombarded with recoilless rifle artillery, although recoilless is a little bit, because they have not tied them down and they're just flying about. But it looks really, really good. Again, just the production of these fight scenes, are we talking the opening scenes for Saving Private Ryan? No, we are not. But it is also a different scale. And for what it is, this kind of guerrilla warfare insurgency, this looks really, really solid and very impressive. And they attack this outpost and charge it. And then the Portuguese, we see the only time we see any white people in this movie is a few Portuguese soldiers running away. And then moments after, the native soldiers surrender. And right after this, there's a scene where some of the civilians, I think, are talking that they've heard that the Portuguese general is, that the soldiers are tired of him. And I think it's a reference to the fact that around this time would be the revolution in Portugal itself and the overthrow of the regime. So we're moving towards peace in a way.
We're moving towards peace. And also the fact that the Portuguese soldiers run away and leave the locals behind kind of cements one of the points you had in the beginning of what they did to the society afterwards.
Exactly.
Because, the native Portuguese soldiers, loyalists, whatever you want to call them, immediately say, we're on your side, we're forced to fight here. But there's no real mercy about it. They're just called traitors and asked to sit down.
Yeah.
When I saw this scene, I thought, now we're going to see a lot of conquests by the Revolutionary Army, and we're going to see them drive the Portuguese out, and so on.
We're going to see Pulcasari walk in the background towards the castle.
Yeah, exactly. And
step on the king, step on Salazar.
Yeah, exactly. But it's cut completely abrupt, this kind of war film, by the next scene, which is where we go back to the civilians. And we move from this realism that the war segment of the films portrays into this other kind of side of this film, which is this dreamy, animalistic, spiritual
much
world.
more traditional.
Yeah. And I thought that scene looked beautiful. It's the scene where they walk to a small white, the Dominga Lebeth, and some of the civilians are walking, and there's this small white castle in the middle of this kind of ocean of sand, and there's just kids like running around on the walls, playing, laughing, just having a just a party.
Yeah. Playing war.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important point as well. That I always think that is a very powerful image that these children, all they have lived by. I mean, these are younger than 10, so they have grown up their entire life doing war, and they're playing what they see.
Yeah, and then from this surreal scene, it seemed. I mean, perhaps it doesn't sound so surreal when we talk about it, but when you watch the film, it's like, all right, this is a different film.
Yeah, it looks very different from what we've seen, which is this bush.
Yeah,
we've seen nothing but bush.
Bush and war.
Yeah, exactly.
And suddenly the war is over.
Yeah, well, Dominga says to these children, the war is over, and they cheer, and that's the whole part of it. Really, there is not any mention of it being any big celebration or party in the streets or anything. It is simply that little statement.
Amazing.
Yeah,
and at that point, I paused the film to see how much is left.
Yeah, because we're about halfway through.
We're about halfway through at this point. The next scene, I think, is Dominga returning to her village, but she is returning alone.
Yeah, without Sako.
And it's not really explained in the film at that point if he didn't make it or...
No, I mean, I think because if we're trying to date some of these events, when we hear about Amilcar being killed, there's about a year left of the war after that point, and that's around the time that they split up again. So I think it's just sort of implied that, well, he went off to fight and she's going her own way and time has passed. The timeline is not event after event after event. Some time has passed and now the war is over and he's still out there somewhere.
All right, sure, I can see that. It was not the impression I had when I watched it, but I mean that's why there's two of us here. It's just my first thought was because there's also like these her friends and not any family per se, but friends and acquaintances and so on in the village. And she keeps commenting how she is alone, completely without a family. Sako is not there; he's not really mentioned. So I thought, oh, all right, he died. He went out and he died, and now she's alone. And kind of in the next scenes, she starts to cultivate land again, and the villagers help her chop down the weeds and so on. So it's it sets out on her kind of establishing a new life alone.
Yeah, but there's also solidarity in this part of it because she comes back and she finds that another family has basically moved into her house, and she's just well, you have children, so you should stay. And there's also there's a teacher who has arrived to teach these villages how to read and write. There's a lot of people helping each other in the field, as you say, trying to clear the bush as well. You can also see the man comes and does something that is clearly a woman's job. They have to teach him how to cut grass with a machete. All these small things that show this solidarity, this revolution still going in the immediate aftermath of the war.
Yeah. That's the teacher coming to help chop down the weeds, right? Or to clear
the intellectual
farm.
as well.
Intellectual, yeah. And I thought there's not a lot of men in the village, of course.
No.
He's there, and some of the women working the field are eating him up.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like they're not focused on work.
They haven't seen a man in 10 years.
Yeah, exactly. That's a different kind of drought than the next subject here. But again, keeping up with what I said going into this part of the analysis is that the film takes a stark turn from realism to suddenly being really metaphoric and spiritual, and great in that sense because there's a drought. There are no crops. No one can remember that the rain hasn't fallen for so long. And in the film, the drought is not just the drought. It symbolizes, what the premise of this podcast was, or the quote from the beginning, that now the revolution is over and, not everything is fixed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and, there's a slow decline of everything. Suddenly, there's some pickup trucks arriving once in a while with oil and rice and stuff for them. And it seems that they get less and less, and some people seem to be hoarding it and selling it on the side. This solidarity is slowly
Eroding.
drying out in this drought in a way. But there's also an interesting scene because some of the adults also go to the school to learn how to read and write, and the teacher writes the word struggle on the blackboard and asks, what does it mean? And one of the women responds that the struggle for her is feeding her children. And then, well, we should probably say that Sako at this point has returns at some point to the village and reconnects with Dominga, so he isn't dead. But anyway, he's also there, and he says that for him the struggle was fighting the Portuguese, and the teacher concludes that, pointing at the woman, saying for you, pointing at Sako and saying for you the struggle was yesterday, for her the struggle is today. And the struggle continues. It's sort of a way to maybe say that the revolution is now at a point where it has to evolve. Now it's not fighting with an AK-47 in your hand. It's fighting with a machete in the field or whatever you have to do to survive now. I thought that was a really interesting way of putting it.
Definitely. That's also why I took it up as the first question, because that was...
Yeah, it leans very much against your first question. Yeah.
And I think it does it so well, without blame.
And it doesn't hammer it. It's not heavy-handed.
No, not at all. It's just...
It might seem a little bit heavy-handed that we have a teacher writing it on the blackboard, but it's done so normally. Naturally, and it really flows in a way that you never feel like you're being hit in the head with any of this. And also it's so subtle, the way that the unity that they have built up during these 10 years of war evaporates. It's very little things here and there, a complaint about why is she getting a little more rice? Why are you selling this oil? It should have been given to us, or something. These small comments here and there, less and less water in the wells and all this, and it's just really well done. This part of the movie, I think.
Sako does return.
Yeah, as we said.
And he returns with a limp. It was talked about, mentioned earlier in the film, like in the trenches, where he has wounded. a foot injury of some sort, but he seemed fine during the war. And it's he has this scene where he's really limping and he's struggling with his foot, and he's talking to one of his friends from the party.
Interestingly enough, he's sort of like the area commander or area administrator or something, and it's actually played by the director himself.
Nice, I did not know that.
No, I didn't know that until I read it.
and Sako says, I'm paraphrasing here, I don't have the exact quote, but again, in a very subtle and powerful way, kind of, this foot is killing me. I was fighting with this injury for several years at the front. I didn't feel anything. Now the war is over, and I can't sleep from the pain.
Isn't that a metaphor?
Plays into the theme once more. The hardship, the lack of funds, and so on, also mean that they don't really have a doctor.
No.
In this village, and Dominga wants Sako to go into Bissau,
the capital. Yeah.
They can't afford it. He doesn't want to go. Male pride or cheapness. I don't know. One of they're connected sometimes. And but she does not want him to die.
No.
So she takes him to Bissau, as it usually goes. And he's in what I really see as a critique of the society that the revolution has established, is that when they get to the hospital, he's put in a hospital bed, and he's told that he's in a really bad shape, but he needs to rest up before he can do anything. And they just kind of leave him to die on the bed. And what happens then?
Yeah, well, he asked Dominga if he's saying, I can't stay here, I'll just die, I need help, and you need to go and find 2 of my old soldier buddies that are in the city. And he tells her what he knows about them, and she sets out with a friend to find these 2 men. And the first one she finds
Estin and Mandembo.
Yeah, and the first one she finds is the Estin, who now works in an office. She goes to meet him, and when she says, "I'm the wife of Sako,"
comrade,
your old comrade in arms, he's just like, oh, I don't remember that name, and it's very, performance. He's sort of sucking off on his pipe, and I don't really remember, and is it money that he wants? And she just looks at him in disgust, and then turns around and leaves. And then they go and talk to Mandembo. He hears Sako's name and hears that he's in trouble, and he's jumping into a car immediately. And I think it's such a good way of showing the contrast between the good and bad. In a way, those who are poisoning the revolution or the unity, and those who were trying to live up to that ideal.
And as we do know, just to kind of, I don't think this is heavy-handed either, because
No.
you know, from what I know about socialist, communist revolutions, man, they can't wait to get the elites out so they can sit in the exact same chair, you know, and that is, I mean, that has really hindered a lot of the socialist communist projects throughout the world.
Yeah, but they go and pick up Sako, and he's brought to Mandembo's home and is to be taken care of there and until he recovers.
And then Dominga has a dream, which is where the film, you know, takes off from a metaphorical plane into just pure animalism craziness.
Yeah,
it's my favorite part of the film.
It sounds weird, and it is weird.
Yeah,
but it is so interesting. It is one of the more interesting choices I've seen in a movie. You know, of any movie, a turn so wild that it's hard to really put into words, because yes, she has a dream, there's some fire, there's some houses burning down, some children running, there's the drought and everything, and she tells some of her friends after, and there's an older lady there who says, this dream requires that we ask the dead. And then smash cut to boats arriving with people in all kinds of traditional headgear, you know, costumes,
masks,
enormous human paper mache masks, running and drumming, and then I think the last 5 minutes of the movie, or maybe even 10, maybe the last 10 minutes of the movie is a massive set piece of a lot of people performing a sort of a ritual.
Yeah, and the ritual was, I mean, I had to watch it a couple of times.
Oh yeah,
because
it's hard to understand.
They are, you know, there's drums and there's kind of this circle. So think dance off.
Yeah, in a way.
And then, you know, the coffin bearers or the corpse bearers.
Yeah.
They charge towards one woman at the time, and the woman pushes away the corpse, and then says, you know,
she has these. Yeah, it's not like incantations, but it's more like really loud, almost political statements. In a way that she says, and then she says a few of them in a row, and then, you know, another act in this, you know, ritual takes hold again, or and it goes over and over and over again. And, you know, it is, from what I understood when I tried to read up what it actually meant, all of this, I mean, there are statements that sort of make sense as well in the context of it, but what the meaning of it is that this new situation requires not just Bissau Guineans, but Africans in general, that this new situation requires that you look back. You need to look to your traditions. You need to look to your roots and your religions, your local religions, to solve these modern projects and look to the future. You need the help of the past. But it is so impressive, and it just
blew my mind.
Yeah,
it blew my mind.
Yeah, it's so wild. And when, if you took this movie and you watched the first 5 minutes and then skipped by accident, if your finger slipped on
to the last
10, you would think, did I go to another movie? It's the contrast between them walking part of this ammunition, you know, train, and then to this enormous ritual is just, it's vast, but it's really impressive.
It is. I mean, I'm lost for words. And you said what I read as well, that, you know, the revolution removed the shackles.
Yeah.
And the way forward is, you know, tying into the you know, Flora Gomes Pan-Africanism and so on. It's not to just, you know, become Western or become modern. It's to, you know, take care of your traditions, take care of your rituals, and take care of each other.
Yeah.
I am not by any meaning of the word an expert on West African customs. But all of the things that are going on in that scene cannot be Bissau Guinean.
What do you mean?
I saw there's one scene with like the feather suit, and then the stomping of the feet where
masquerades,
the body, where the body doesn't move. I'm pretty sure I've seen that somewhere else in Africa in other films. But so I think, it wouldn't surprise me if you just took.
A lot of them have. I mean, as I said in a previous episode, my wife is from Nigeria, and you know, each tribe has their own special traditions, and some of it is very similar, but with different deities or I think at one point she's also calling out, I can't remember the name, but she's also calling out to a specific deity and as well. It could also be that it's a bunch of different, because I think this symbolism in the beginning of this ritual scene is a lot of boats coming. There's even like a big ferry coming and just opening its, front, I don't know what it's called, loader, a flap or whatever, and a lot of people rushing out. Some just come in a small canoe and some come in a small boat. I think it's supposed to be all the different tribes of the country sort of arriving together, so that it might be different traditions within the same country as well. When we go back to in the beginning, you said that one of the reviewers called it an elegy not for the victims of war, but for its survivors. I think this is really where that's tied up in a way.
So, what did you think?
I thought it was amazing. I could not help but compare it to the last movie we watched, Dry Season from Chad, because I think the premise is so similar. I mean, we have two movies that deal with what happens when a war ends. In the other one, it's one person's struggle with the fact that the government has given amnesty to the man who has killed his father. And in this one, it's how do you move on? So I think that's a theme in both of them. How do you move on? What do you do when the war ends? But the execution in this one, from the beginning to the end, was just so much better. There was not a moment that I found boring, because that was one of my problems with the other one. It was so repetitive, and a lot of scenes really didn't hit well because the acting was just not there for what it needed. And here the acting is so good, and the way that he handles these very big themes of the collapse or decay of the revolution in a way, I think it's handled so well. So I was really impressed. What about you?
I was also completely blown away. I think I agree with everything you said there, and I'd just like to add, I think this is the widest repertoire in one film of all of the ones we've seen. Not necessarily the best, is not what I'm saying, but it's just he's good. He's really good. Yeah. I mean, moving from the realism of war, almost kind of documentary-esque, into this middle part of the film where it starts,
it's answering a lot of big questions and stuff, and then into this,
and then answering those big questions in the end in a completely surreal, bizarre, almost acidy way is just that's amazing to do in 1 hour and 40 minutes.
It's one of the best African movies I've seen. I've seen quite a few, but this one is just. And then to think that this was made in 1988, before many of Nollywood really kicked off as well and became a big powerhouse of African cinema. This really feels like the country coming together to make a movie about this struggle and about the situation that they're in. It really feels like a unifying project in a way. I very much would like to see his follow-up movie, which I think called The Blue Eyes of Yolanda or something like that, but which also deals with the aftermath of the revolution. That one I definitely want to watch now because this was something.
1 out of 10. One.
Okay. You're a big fan.
I love it. So we have 6.8 on IMDb. We have 3.7 on Letterboxd. Nothing on Rotten Tomatoes. Too few people rating it. Yeah. But in the foreign film frequency scale, where does it land?
So I find this hard because, as you said, is it the best movie we've watched? No, it's probably not. There are movies I think that were better and that I will probably put on before I put this one on again. I was probably hovering around close to where the IMDb rating was, but I kind of want to add a little bit more just because of the context that I think what they achieved with what they had and how impressive it actually is. So I think I'm at a 7.
All right. I actually thought you would go higher than that.
Yeah.
I'm not judging you for it. I'm just saying I thought it would go higher. I'm much higher than that.
You're much higher.
It might not be the best, but it's definitely the one that made me stop the most. It might be because it's so far away from, I haven't watched a lot of African films. We saw Control, which was metaphorical and surreal and so on, but I'm from Eastern Europe, so I mean, it's not like I stepped into a new world. Whereas this really gripped me. Yeah. And the way it just moves, it's kind of 3 films in one seamless transition. I'm at an 8.5.
You're at an 8.5.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm too harsh. Maybe it's because I've given quite a lot of high scores as well, and I don't want things to just be so high. All right, you know what? Let me adjust it and say 7.5.
7.5.
I'll give it a little more because I do think it is definitely a movie to watch, and I think this is a perfect representative of what we want to do with this podcast: is watch something so far away from Hollywood that it almost can't get further away from Hollywood, but it's still really impressive. Because I mean, we've seen movies before that the way movies is very strange and different, like Paul Kazari we've mentioned a few times, so this is very far away. But I'm not going to put that one on again.
No,
and this one I could see myself watching and recommending to people, as you know, if you really want to see. And I mean, I don't want to sound too west, but Guinea-Bissau is not a country that I think about a whole lot. and I just think it's amazing that something like this
was their first,
but also come out of a country that just plays such a little role in the news or in our day-to-day consciousness.
Yeah. Well, one more thing I would like to add as to why my score is where it is I don't think we touched on the music of the films. It's I mean, it's really beautiful. Like some of the marching chants, some of the, again, I mean, it's we watched it on YouTube. It's not a secret.
No, it's available on YouTube. Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not sure about all of the subtitles again, but the lyrics are beautiful, and
some of them seem to be made for the movie and mentioning Dominga directly and things that are going on. It's really nice. Yeah.
Força de mingao luta assim de mingao mame digirilia ziminga chora penao.
It just uses all of what they had available is used perfectly. For me, it's an 8.5.
So we have to find the next movie. So as always, we try to find 3 movies so you have a chance to watch it. And the next one we'll be watching is Holy Spider from Iran. And then after that, we're watching To Live from China. And we have to find the one after that. So as always, we are spinning a random country generator app. And we'll get a country. And then we'll refer to a list that we've made of a lot of different movies. Sometimes we have something for the country. Sometimes we have to do another role. But we'll see where we'll be going to next. And Bangladesh.
All right.
And I'll refer to our list. Let's see what we have. I have a few different ones. I have a crime thriller called Mirror Games. I have a drama called The Unnamed. I have a horror mystery drama called Debbie. I have a drama called Made in Bangladesh. And I have a mystery drama called Hawa. I have no preference whatsoever.
I would. Can I pick it?
Yeah, sure.
I would like to discuss a horror film with you.
A horror film.
Yeah. So let's go with Debbie.
Let's go with Debbie then. Nicola here. So, unfortunately, the version of Debbie that we found did not come with English subtitles, only Bengali subtitles. And unfortunately, we weren't able to actually find a version with English subtitles. So, instead of Debbie, we will be watching the 2019 drama Made in Bangladesh, directed by Rubaiyat Hussain. So, Nikolai will have to wait a little bit before he gets to discuss a horror movie with me, but I'm sure we'll get to that at some point. Sorry for the inconvenience. Back to us. Directed by Anam Biswas, and it seems to have a rating of 7.7 on IMDb, which is pretty high, but then again, I will say I found that Bangladesh and Indian movies are generally rated extremely high, and from what I can read, there's a lot of national pride in these movies, which means that a lot of people just bombard them with 10 out of 10 ratings. Oh, we haven't seen any from either country, so let's see what we think. We'll watch Made in Bangladesh.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, and see you next time.
See you next time.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Foreign Film Frequency. Please like, rate, and review us wherever you're listening. Please share us far and wide.